added to my list this week that would be a fun one to do sometime, but I can't talk about yet. Because I don't need people buying it before I do.
Yeah. Give me a shot. Give me a shot of scooping it if it's my kind of deal. All right, we are streaming.
Excellent.
I just have to go in. It's very confusing when it's unlisted. You got to do a couple of extra clicks to get your hands on the actual video to post and all that. But
yeah, because who knows what people are. Nobody's looking for it now.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not.
I mean, they just can't get to it.
Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not. Yeah, because who knows what people are. Well, I mean, even like if they follow it on Patreon, they're not. Welcome back, King Kayfabers. Our second round of live stream, third round of live stream today. Welcome back, King Kayfabers. Ran into some scheduling hiccups. Live stream, third round of live stream. Not going to be recording Klaus today. Ran into some scheduling hiccups. Bringing you guys, just bringing you up to speed on what to expect. Ran into some scheduling one thing on Sunday. Bringing you guys, just bringing you up to heads up on what to expect. Ran into scheduling. You guys are really bringing it guys. This is the heads up. Ran into you guys are really bringing it. I think you'll be happy with this. This is the heads up. Ran into you guys. Most of the topics we're going to dive back into. So hopefully that kind of that I won't be the only one who's excited by these topics.
Yes, people are starting to pop in.
Excellent.
A little bit.
Welcome back, everyone.
Suggests that the stream is working. I'm looking at our audio levels and stuff. Let me just put it in the chat also.
And by the way, to the King Kayfabers, one of these videos that we're going to hit first, direct response to the King Kayfabe feedback earlier, about a half an hour ago, when we were talking about this stuff, kind of off the cuff at the end of our first recording session. And that's absolute Batman killing joke.
Yeah. That
was a conversation I enjoyed. It seemed like from feedback the King Kayfabers were into, so this should be a fun one.
Yes.
I think it's a great topic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you heard our rehearsal. You heard the dress rehearsal. So let's do.
These things are funny, Ed. I always think about, like we talk about having somebody show up as like a third-party documentary on some of these video ideas. And one of my ideas is like just the entire Thursday shoot, like not just what we're sharing, but kind of like the prep, the waking up way before the sun,
right?
Just all of this stuff, I think would make for a very kind of entertaining video. And feels like that's the documentary format, like I've seen so many of those documentaries where it's like you start out and it's the stupid alarm clock, you only see the digital letters in the dark.
Yeah.
Before anything starts, and that would be funny to have a Thursday that way, because I enjoyed our conversation in between the two sessions too when we're talking Comics Pro. Like that's one of the things we've been talking about. And for the King Kayfabers, I'm sure we've mentioned this, but Comics Pro is going to be held in person for the first time since COVID in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So you can bet that we are going to be there, and we are going to be recording as much as we can, talking to a bunch of retailers, and delivering a keynote. So we've been talking about that, and the subject matter is comic book shops, comic book retailers. So talking about that in between our recording sessions today, and I'm pretty excited to kind of like get into that. That's a topic that we've certainly spent, hundreds of hours discussing.
Now we have to do we're doing because it's comics and so lo-fi. They're not streaming the video the way we are streaming right now to the King Kayfabers. So they asked us to do like a recorded thing of our keynote, suggesting that we're going to fucking write some shit, which I ain't. I'm not, I'm going to have bullet points and things, but I'm not reading off a paper. That's fucking boring as hell. And I'm just going to speak from the heart and stuff like that. But with that in mind, I don't think that the recorded thing is going to be exactly...
I think that too.
The final thing. Because especially when I get up there and I feel like joking and having fun, like, at a spur of the moment. In comics, and it's with everything. You can watch it with anybody you like that goes to a college and gives a talk. It's like the law for academia to dig such a boring hole for that author or performer to crawl out of when they're like, and on Wednesday we're going to be having a yada yada yada, and this is brought to you by such and such, and a grant from blah 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 blah, and they just fucking go on 5 minutes about it. And now, you know,
yeah, there should be an opener that comes in between.
And then it's like, and then Jaime Hernandez, and then they read their biography. He has really revolutionized blah blah blah, and it's like 10 minutes of this bullshit. Now Jaime Hernandez, and it's almost like, and now you're there, and everybody's bored as fuck. They always do that shit, and we're not going to be those guys, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I do expect it to be, because it won't surprise me if we end up recording the version that we do, too. And if we do, I think it'll be two very different talks, and I'm fine with that, because I'm sure I have more than 20 minutes or so to say about comic book shops.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it will be fun, though, and I am looking forward to it, just because it's one of those things. It's almost like the living essay, which
right.
in a way we're going to be doing here as we get back into recording video. But it's almost like, here's the topic. Now start spinning.
Right.
Start thinking about this stuff. And for comic book shops, like, I think about how many we've been to.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's always a highlight. We started visiting them before lockdown. Doing a couple of store appearances.
Right.
So
yeah.
I am looking forward to visiting with those comic shop owners, but also just like, let's tell some stories, man, about our own experiences there, because hey, I'm probably not in comics if I don't find comic shops.
It's true.
I don't know if I go to IUP if it's not for their comic shop at the time.
So the culture might be toast. Like, it might have really have gone away in a way, like, if it wasn't for that kind of specialization.
It yes, absolutely. Like the fandom kind of leads to that, and that pays back to the fandom. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. But one of those things, again, behind the curtain is what you're getting if you're a King Kayfaber. So some living notes there as this is starting to formulate. Probably in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll record that. So.
Sure, sounds great, man. And shit, man, the one we record is going to be way more than 20 minutes. That's going to be a show.
Yeah.
And we're just going to riff and cut it off at a half-hour point, just like we do our weekly. But for the King Kayfabers playing at home, you're getting all 7 videos, the raw recording session, because Klaus came down with a little bug or something, man, and hit me up. Like, I took the cam down, looked at my phone, got a couple of texts, said, "Oh no," and Jimmy's like, "Oh no," because he knew what that meant.
But he's a pro's pro. Like, this is, I'm sure, legit.
It is legit.
I mean, he was sending us extra stuff, which what this does is gives us a chance to actually look at some of those color guides.
Couldn't even open it.
And prep even better. So
yeah.
It will pay off. Do not worry about that.
Yes. But that's going to happen. We can only control what we can control, and we're going to do 2 bangers. And we got an hour video that we're going to do. So this is a substantial second recording. It was important that we come back, man.
Got a main event coming up.
We do.
A Broadway, maybe.
It's going to be a great talk. I feel like it's righting some previous wrongs, and it's going to be eye candy.
Yes. But man, I'm pretty excited for this one, just based on our little conversation 20 minutes ago.
Let's have that conversation.
So if you are ready, Ed.
Let's do it. Welcome to Cartoonist Cafe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
We have a Patreon that our biggest supporters are watching us stream this video live in full effect. And this is going to be a Kayfabe Effect book. I have a feeling, man. They're going to get first dibs because they're getting all our videos before anybody else does. But these videos are brought to you by the books that we make. And right now I have Red Room Crypto Killers Issue 1 being solicited in comic shops. Tell your story, you want a copy. 2 trade paperbacks are out there. Red Room, The Antisocial Network, and Red Room Trigger Warnings. It's the 10th anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree. There are 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design, and you'll find the occasional WYSIWYG out there if you look long and hard enough. Jimmy's going to have Hulk Grand Design forthcoming at the end of February. Plain Jane's is out there. Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive and Street Angel Princess of Poverty. Is going to be forthcoming. Put in your pre-orders for that. We're done paying the bills. Listen, not only are we the presidents of Cartoonist Cafe, but we are also the members. We are the first members. We are the first to be Kayfabe affected. And we had that amazing conversation with Brian Bolland sometime back, where we were going through The Killing Joke page by page with Uncle Brian, and the edition that he was using, he was actually using some Italian edition that he liked, but he held up the Killing Joke Absolute Edition that includes his color, it includes the John Higgins color, it has the script, all that stuff. I was not faking it when we were making that video, and I said, oh, I'm buying that. Got off the recording, and I bought it. Here it is in its slipcase. Got it for like $20 because there's a little ding on the slipper, but that doesn't make me cry in any way, shape, or form. You got your front image, the classic image recolored by Uncle Brian, and
let's see a comparison of that real quick. Yes, you've got two color versions, not outrageously different.
This is like a guide because you can see the practical hand putting the little white on top of his airbrushed color there. And here he's just using, Wacom tablet or something. Much different green right there. But, using an airbrush tool inside the computer.
I think it's worth noting because we do look at so many books and sometimes not in flattering light. This is the second absolute that we're looking at. It is. Hats off to DC and putting these absolutes together. The other one was Batman Year One that we both have broken down and bought. Testament to at least some of their absolute editions and what they're putting in them. Some really A-plus material in these things.
And we'll go through this a little bit. In the conversation with Brian Bolland, he said when he did these like side views, right, he wanted to create some new material for the box set. He had to set up guides, right, to sort of get all of the imagery accurately. Like, the guy is nothing if not thorough. Yeah. So what he meant by that is just like he had to create like a template to make sure that the eye hits there, that the nose hits here, that the bump hits a certain spot. You can really go crazy with setting up your guides. I've done it a lot of times because I did animation stuff where I had to do the turnarounds. Maybe you choose like this eyebrow, like where that hits, the teeth, maybe the bottom lip. If you do enough grids, you do them piecemeal. Don't put all the grids because you'll just have a million lines. But, handle all the important bits at first. Look at how, like, photo ref that. Like, that's totally, it just almost looks like a collage piece.
Yeah, really super tight.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit more mechanical, Like, we've
really
talked
does.
about his digital, and some of the lines have that. They kind of have that digital quality. I'm a little bit surprised to see.
Yeah, it does. When you see it close, like this ear looks very kind of digital. It almost looks unfinished, to be honest. Like, where's that little piece right there? But nonetheless, cool package. And it has...
I love the end papers show off the rain. Because, again, this is something we talked about, man. First topic of art talk in our interview with him. Because, like, drawing all your blacks and leaving the whites open, I've done that a lot because I don't have a white media I like, but it's inconceivable almost to me to do it at this level.
Like this. He's drawing that.
Wild.
I don't make it a point to, like, stare at our faces the whole time while we're, editing and talking to these guys, but the Kayfabers certainly see us, and they made note of our reaction whenever we talked, like, that part of the conversation. Plus, when Uncle Brian shows off a piece of art, and when it's almost like we're like Lady and the Tramp, our heads are uncomfortably too close to one another as we get so close to that monitor to pour over the artwork that he was showing us.
One of the nice things right off the bat is this art's a little bit bigger. This is a bigger book than the original printing, so for an artist like Bolland that's so detailed, make it bigger. It's very rewarding to.
It's a boutique package. It's a boutique package, no doubt. So you got your Bolland color. You got we've all seen this piece, but you got some closer reference. Look at that hand to that hand, right? We've got some closer reference to the final cover.
And by the way, I have to look like twice to make sure that's a sketch. It's
right.
so detailed.
Right. There's your final piece right there. Little retrospective piece being written. A bit about the blue line color process that John Higgins embarked on.
Oh man, I'm super glad to have this in here because we reference this a lot. We talk blue line process. There's also like a gray line process that's similar, but instead of blue, it's a very, very light gray. And the idea is you go directly into this and you add your color. And the black is its own separate layer that will then be put on top and photographed together to give you the final page. So when we talk blue line method, that's literally what we're describing.
Yeah. You'll have like a piece of acetate that will have just the black area. You see that little bullseye right there. You see that little bullseye right there. It used to be like a Scotch tape that would have these little bullseyes, but they're called registration dots or registration marks. So on your acetate black layer, you'll put 2 sets of those. On your color layer, you will put 2 sets as well. And you match those little crosshairs up with the black layer, with the color layer, and then that gives you an on-register approach, man. The color is directly behind the black line. When you see the color shift or whatever, you could rest assured that the dots are not lining up when it hits the printing process, and it's not going to happen. The publishers will tell you that a 1/4 inch off is a good print job.
Often you'll see the original art being sold for this kind of thing, where like your acetate cover is taped on, and you can lift it up and see the color and then put it down and see it with the line art on top.
So they give us both colored editions. We just looked at the Brian Bolland. Here is the John Higgins, but they throw John under the fucking bus by publishing this stuff on a toothy
This is amazing to me. Why would they do this?
Look at how shit that is.
It's not even... I thought that both editions might have been on this uncoated stock.
No.
And it isn't. It's just this one.
Yeah, they're throwing John Higgins completely under the bus.
What a weird choice.
Because with the blue line color approach, there's a reason why you go mechanical. Oh, yeah, pull up page 1. Page 1 will be plenty good.
This is... why I make such a big deal out of it is the original. A lot of times, like Batman Year One edition that we have, they do this, and it's brilliant because it was printed on newsprint originally, and those colors look great. They show the original colors exactly.
The newsprint color.
But this was done on a coated stock, a glossy kind of paper, so there was no version like this.
No, never. This is the Hollywood version. This is nonsense, and it's blotchy. It's darker. You talk about dot gain. There's dot gain to this, and you can't do the blue line process on this kind of paper because the values you're getting are muddy and kind of fucked up. You can look even right here. Look, it's off register compared to this. This is on register. So this was a big misstep, and it really
strange
makes John Higgins' work not flattering at all.
It's a bizarre choice.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Like the blotch of it is embarrassing. You got to leave it to the public. They're gonna fuck something up. Because there's a lot of benefits to this, and I still say you got to get it.
Yeah, it's still very beautiful, and I don't even hate seeing it that way. It's just an odd choice because like that's not even the default paper.
No,
so
exactly.
You went out of your way to put a paper in that wasn't the right paper.
There's Huey, Dewey, and Louie with the progeria eyes.
Oh man, so those things look unsettling every time you see them.
Yes. Now, my friends, this is why you buy this book, and here's what you do: you do not throw away the original. This is not an upgrade. This is in addition to. We all have Killing Joke. So you keep that. Complete Alan Moore script is included in here. Brian says that like he knew the guy who owned the script, must have bought it. We got the signature from both of the guys. Interesting conversations to have there. Like, would Alan Moore have written the script if he thought anybody but Brian was going to see it? Brian or the editor? Like there's could be some private stuff in here, like whatever. But it's for a work for hire work, so morally it might be a bad thing, but like business wise, they're able to do it. Whatever.
DC owns it, I guess.
DC owns it.
I do think there's probably some gray legality there.
Yeah, because what did they buy? Did they buy this or
right? Because they don't own the original art, and I don't know how the handwritten script or hand typed one of a kind thing. I don't know that they would own it. They might own the intellectual concept of it, but the physical object I don't know about.
So everything that you see with this kind of checkerboard, that's the script. It's beyond, like, you add up both Killing Joke editions, and there's more script than both of those Killing Joke editions. If you see here, like, there's a whole page of just atmosphere.
Yeah, preamble.
Being described here. Now, just last night I started, and now this is why you don't upgrade. It's in addition to your Killing Joke, because you read the panel 1 here, and then you have your own copy to look at exactly like while you're reading the thing. It's easier to do it this way than to like go back.
Yeah, right.
So you have the text right here. I would say that Brian Bolland was very magnanimous in certain ways because he actually brings a lot to the table. Like I've only gotten 7-8 pages worth of comic in, which is to say 20 pages of this typewritten script.
I'm shocked to see the typewriting is all uppercase.
It
seems
not
harder to read.
It's not. For this kind of stuff, for everything that's not like the dialogue balloons and stuff, it is. So like for the descriptive.
See, that seems backwards.
Yeah.
Like make the dialogue and captions all uppercase since that's how it's typically lettered.
There's a reason for that, and you'll see it in these bits. So this is just, there's no standard way to format comic scripts. You do it as you do it. So he chooses to use these bolds to explain the stuff, and then at the end of each piece, it'll say no dialogue in like typical, uppercase, lowercase. Reading the scripts and then like looking at the corresponding pages. First off, dude, let's get that artist edition, right? Like let's track down. It's only 48 pages. Let's track these down.
Oh yeah. What's the underline denote? Do you know?
It is like the stuff that is, at least in these pieces, right? Like these initial sections, it's the stuff that you definitely see. Like a lot of this is color, commentary, and emotion, but like you're getting a little road surface, the headlights of a car. Like this is the exact stuff that definitely is going in here. Everything else is like inspiring you as creator to, give us what you got. Totally entrancing. It's extremely good. We are missing a big part of comics culture, not having access to every Alan Moore script, the complete Watchmen script, all that stuff. We need it all. For the good of comics, it needs to be out there.
And the ones that are out there are prohibitively expensive, like the From Hell scripts. Like they published some of those. Good luck buying one of those now.
Is that true? So there's some good stuff in here that you really like. And okay, so I get the sense, there's parts in this early part of the script, I get the sense that Alan Moore is maybe longhand writing something and just enough to do thumbnails. And then he does his own thumbnails, as everybody says he does. And then looks at those thumbnails and then goes into the final script, like imagining what a Brian Bolland might do in that scene, like really trying to visualize and write beyond what his own artistic capabilities are. And there's indicators in here. There's parts like we're still on page 1 where he's saying stuff like, I've worked it out to where we're going to reveal Batman's face on page 4, so do not show it. Like we're building to something here. So use every trick in a book to like not give us a satisfying shot of Batman yet. This bit here, the page before this and this bit, it's very telling, and I can't wait to read further because I am comparing every panel as I'm reading, so it's going to take a little while. This in the script is intended, okay, page 3. This is a full page splash picture. These panels are supposed to be on a previous page, and Brian Bolland decided to decompress some of the other panels. It's specifically so Harvey Dent stuff. We're walking past Harvey Dent. A lot of that was supposed to happen in like one panel, and Bolland broke it up a little bit and decided to push some of the previous panels from page 2 to page 3 to give us this moment here.
This is such a striking sequence to me.
Yeah.
Because this is all new. What you're telling me right now, Ed, first time I've heard this about this specific sequence. But in my head, this is such a dramatic piece of the Killing Joke.
Sure.
You know, it's that entrance moment.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that it was not written this way exactly.
Yeah, and there's some acting things. The bits like I never noticed her shuffling the cigarettes and like dropping them on the table. That is described. This, like, you don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps. That is described. There's a book on the desk that's The Comedians by so-and-so is described. It's not here. Brian Bolland could not get that to work. This piece of acting, I have always noticed. It's a good Commissioner Gordon moment. That is not in the script from Alan Moore. Brian Bolland added this piece. So this is the bits that gets decompressed and sort of like it's supposed to happen here, and then this is supposed to happen up here somewhere, and that last bit is supposed to happen there.
Even just the action of the door opening as you turn the page and enter the room.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's such a great page turn.
Yeah. Yeah. In the script, it calls these keys out. The keys are important.
Boy, they pop.
They do.
Visually, he really captured the importance of those keys.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the fun pieces about reading the script and all of that. There's the buttocks that we were talking about.
Sure.
Now, Jimmy, we're going to get to a piece that I know you're gonna pop for, because now we're getting into the dialoguing, right? And I know that you're very particular about your like line cuts.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is Alan Moore deciding, like, imagining like where the bubbles should cut off, like each line should cut off.
Yeah.
So that it has like the flow that he's looking for.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you'll see here that I do. So to talk, right? Don't break up that verb.
Right.
Like a verb phrase, ideally a prepositional phrase. Like, keep these things together.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
It
You know, like you'll
has
see it on like proper names. You
Yeah.
never break up a proper name across lines. At least you shouldn't.
Right.
But there's a lot of this stuff where in my mind it's just easier to read if you keep these certain groupings together.
Yeah.
As much as possible. There are places where space you just can't do it. But for the most part, you got a lot of control there.
So here's why he uses all caps, man. Because when he's using proper dialogue, he's calling out what he wants in bold.
Yeah.
And I suppose you could have done an underline or something, but he doesn't. So that's sort of why he does.
Yeah, I like that.
That beyond the dialogue, and it's not like I passed it up. There's the FNAP of the cards. He is telling the letterer, this is a small sound effect. He's indicating everything. He's so precise in his scripting. I've gotten to about here. Let's see. We're gonna be okay. Yeah, like Mitchum is the guy who's selling the property to Joker. We're getting some insights into Mitchum and who he is, what he's about, stuff that is not in the book. Alan Moore is trying to sell Brian Bolland on revamping Joker's costume a little bit. It's November. Don't give him the same old purple outfit. Isn't it a shame that he only has one pair of clothes? That kind of thing. Keeping Brian Bolland engaged in the material. But this is about where I'm at. I'm still, I'm going to go tonight before bed. I'm going to read for an hour and just keep comparing and contrasting the whole thing. But incredibly,
I love that they oh my goodness,
valuable.
What a great piece that is to get both original art and like the rough the layouts.
When you see the layouts, it feels like there's a sense that I get, man, when I'm looking at because there's several in here. Your typical cartoonist stops here. Like, they draw their stuff out of imagination, and then they basically stop here. Though they go to ink this. Brian is like, okay, now I have to like pose in front of the mirror with a zoot suit on and see how the folds work. I need to light a certain thing. Like it's time for him to start doing reference things. and see and figure almost like this is helping him figure out like what kind of reference he must acquire. I need to underlay my face while I'm drawing this Joker to make sure that the shadows land correctly.
I love seeing the perspective too. Even in the rough, you're working out the perspective.
Yeah, man.
Because that would be one that you could easily do now digital.
And this is one of the pieces we were talking about.
Yeah, I was looking to try to figure out.
You know what? That's definitely a screen.
Yeah, you can see it where it's cut out on a couple of these pieces.
But I can't tell
even the monitor, you can see where it ends.
Yeah, but I can't tell what this one is.
Yeah, I don't see a screen edge. Like I think, as he said, it's drawn.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get. Man, I love every time an original page pops.
Right.
Oh man, they're just so stunning.
Yeah.
You know, it's But one of the things that we were talking about that I wanted to get on video is this idea of what is going on these scripts.
Yeah.
You know, did Alan Moore do a rough layout for himself? Did he do that based on a rough story outline and then a rough layout and then go back in and do these Titan scripts? And the reason that it interests me is because I make comics. So like, how do I make my comics better? And Ed, we've talked a lot about our own process of almost writing in drawn form, you know, something that I see a lot of cartoonists like a Chris Ware proponent of. You see it in Harvey Kurtzman layouts, you know, almost going right to the paper for the stories. And it makes me think, if Alan Moore is doing, here's the rough outline, now here's my rough layout, now here's my detailed script, he's essentially Marvel methoding.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant, because the great innovation to me of the Marvel method is once you see the art, then you put the words on the page to best complement the art. I think some of Frank Miller's collaborations that's awesome. I think some of Frank Miller's collaborations with like a Bill Sienkiewicz on Elektra Assassin is one of the highlights of that, of like, or Hard Boiled, where it's like you get the art back and now you've got to rewrite to fit that artwork. But as somebody who's writing and drawing it myself, like I have a page right now, the next page I'm drawing, the script is one sentence, but it's 6 panels. You know, like I did a bunch of drawing in my layout. If I were to go back, because I think I'm going to try this. Now I'm going to go back in with my layout, knowing the pages that come before and after this rough, and I'm going to write a script like this.
Yeah.
As a way to better know those panels.
Yes.
To possibly nail, you know, better narration, better text, but also just to know it better.
Just you'll add visual things that you might not have if you wouldn't have. One of the things that I was going to suggest to the Kayfabers, which, by the way, the 128-page script and a 48-page comic book. So there it is right there. One of the things I was going to put out to the universe was use this Alan Moore script and draw a Batman Killing Joke. Get together with your friends, draw it. The thing is, it's so detailed in its presentation that your shit would just look like the printed Killing Joke book. Unless you went wildly beyond the script, you will be doing all the same things. There's a precision here, and I think that if you have the creative capital to go ahead, put that script together, and still feel the energy toward drawing the thing that you just like laid out, that could be tremendously beneficial, because you will have a lot more color. You'll know the characters, what the character's thinking, their mood, what they're feeling. You'll know what the weather is. You know if a bad smell came across their nose, and if so, where did it come from? That kind of stuff. You'll add a lot of life to it, but the artist has to make the sort of honest, sort of what would you call it, man? You would have to be honest with yourself and know whether you'll fizzle out or if that's an additional piece.
Yeah, I don't know that
it's part of your process.
Right, and I don't know about a standard process. You know,
No.
I don't know that there's one
No
method.
such thing.
But I do feel like it's another one of those tools. Like, we took a writing class years ago while we were doing Cartoonist Cafe. So if you look back through our archives, you can see us talk a little bit about it. But one of the impressive things to me in that class is how when we would meet, our teacher would have read everybody's stuff from that week, and as we're working through problems, it was always in the text.
Yeah.
Like, she would find these answers. It's not what she wasn't writing a new subplot for us, but she would pull stuff out of what we had written. Is like, you talk about this character here. It's in there. And that always stuck with me from that class. So I do think there's value, and I feel like it's another approach to this tool of comics making that maybe you don't use it all the time, but it's ideal for the next page that's literally coming up on my drawing table this week. So boy, I'm looking forward to it. And holy cow, man, this is a guy that can draw.
It is,
Wow.
man. But, like, this is his roughs and stuff. And like I said, if it was anybody else, you go from this, maybe pencil a little tighter, and then ink from that. But like, he's gonna make sure that the folds are correct, and he's gonna make sure that the gun is all right. You know, he's not drawing purely from imagination. He's setting things up for himself.
This is super fascinating because, like, there are 3 or 4 lines here where he's drawing slight variations on the cape, sketching.
Yeah.
They all look really good.
Totally.
But the idea that someone as precise as him, I guess maybe you have to work through this if you're really going to be that exact
composition guy, you know. So like, dude, this is a typewriter when you're setting up your pages and getting approvals from like Mark Chiarello or whoever would have signed off on this Batman black and white strip. Pretty cool. Worth having. King Kayfabers who are watching in the Patreon live stream right now, they got first dibs on the cheapest copies that are out there. Like, after we are the first Kayfabers, you know. So like, after the conversation with Brian, I went on Amazon and bought a $20 copy. It's a $50 book. It's not going to really break the bank if you get it at cover price. But there are cheap copies out there if you're early on in the game. And I do think that this is a very valuable way to have this book. And I do think that you do not get rid of your original either. To take the comics course, man, with Alan Moore. Read the script and look at the fucking artwork right next to it.
Boy, that's clever. Throwing the logo up in the air like a ball.
Oh, yeah. And look at the rough for that.
Yeah.
You know, the rough is sharp.
It really is, man. He captures that stuff in the rough. Like the gestures you want, the body language, the expressions. That's all in that rough.
Yeah. You know, like, Derek Robertson's a guy who vocally says that, you know, that Bolland's an influence. And, like, this is, like, the Derek Robertson level of, like, the Brian Bolland cribbing. Like, with this kind of ink and stuff. So, like, this is what mortals can do.
It makes sense to me.
But then this is, like, how Brian Bolland, like, takes it to the next.
This is the part that defies logic to me. Mm-hmm. You know, like, to be able to go from this, full of life, and to this and still keep the life in it.
And this is satisfying.
That's magic.
Yeah, like, anybody would be satisfied to draw that and put that out there and be satisfied to take your page rate or whatever, your cover rate. But no, he's going to do this, and you just know that when he's getting in there and he has this thing zoomed in 4,000%, that he's making sure that not one pixel is out of alignment. You know it.
Yeah.
He's that guy.
Amazing.
You know something else I was paying attention to, taking a look at this from our conversation? Noise. No noise.
Yeah.
Noise, no noise.
I do a lot of noise in that Hulk Grand Design. Like, when he was describing it, it made me think of that, because it does, in a way, give it a little more texture, a little more tactile feeling.
Do you use the noise button or use textures that you scan in?
I will add noise organically. I do everything, but I'll add noise organically, and then I'll soft blur it like half of a percent or 1%. Depending on what it is. Like, sometimes I'll blur different. Sometimes I don't use it either. You know, like, whenever we talk about using, like, the full saturation colors in X-Men Grand Design, Hulk Grand Design, sometimes there's no noise. So you do get that, like, ultra flat 100% know, yellow or something. It's just effects that you have access to. You know, like, use all of them. Use whatever one works for you. I have to admire the green bookmarker as we look at
that's funny.
The little details on our Joker on our cover art.
Now it looks like this is the guy at the front of your gondola. Gondola, however you say that word.
Boy, that's a nightmare ride. Not the guy you want to turn around.
Laughing in the dark, man. You good to go, Jimmy?
Yes, I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. I said it before, said it again, man. The people who are on our Patreon are getting first dibs on these comics that we talk about on the aftermarket. And the people who support us the most are watching us live stream these conversations. They're getting all the cheapest copies of everything. What I'm saying is the Patreon pays for itself. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. You're looking at a bunch of them. Tell them what you got out there, Jimmy.
Hulk Grand Design and Street Angel Princess of Poverty are in the pre-order reserve your copy state. So I recommend you do that as soon as possible, because those Hulk Grand Design books have been selling. So let your store know you want those. Also, Plain Jane's and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are both in print and available. Add those to your shelf collection now. You can also join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can download out-of-print zines and mini-comics. You can see a lot more of my original art and process. You can see what I'm working on next there.
Red Room Crypto Killers issue number 1 is being solicited to your comic shops at this very moment, and we need to know how many of them to print up, man. So go to your local comic shop, put in those pre-orders. There's going to be 4 monthly issues. There are 2 trade paperbacks out there right now. Red Room Trigger Warnings and Red Room The Antisocial Network. I'm serializing all the comics before they hit paper. Go to my Patreon. In the link tree in the description below, you'll be able to get their 10-year anniversary Hip Hop Family Tree. Scoop up those books. 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design out there. You might find a WYSIWYG if you're lucky. Jimmy, tell the people what else we got going on.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, mugs, hats, stickers, and more merch at our spread shop. That link is also below this video.
Great way to support the channel. Give them those marching orders, Jimmy. We'll be on our way.
Make more comics.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah. That's good.
That'll be a good one. And I would you know, something like we did with the others, like the best way to read Batman Killing Joke, something like that. All right, let me take some sips.
I feel like Secret could be in that title.
The secret to making masterpiece comics.
I feel like it unlocks a clue for me.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy, if you want to tear down.
Yeah.
And get set up. One more video. Big video.
Yeah, Sunday on the Fly video.
We got so many artist editions that, like, if a situation comes up where we have to call such an audible, you know, typically we read the stuff that we're talking about. It's always best to kind of close it. So since we didn't have a chance to read anything, take a look at artist editions, man. It's not hard to talk about cool art that you like for an hour. Or as they say in Pittsburgh, an hour. So we're going to look at the Sin City Artist Edition. If you haven't grabbed one, man, now's the time. I don't know how they're stacking up on the aftermarkets, if there's still plenty in print or anything, but
I think they're still available.
they won't be for long.
It's one of those artist editions I don't own, but I do look at
Yeah.
and think about buying all the time.
It's your birthday, Jim. Treat yourself. Well, this is going to probably be that set of videos where you guys are staring at our cocks all day.
Ooh, is this a stand-up? I like the stand-ups. I feel like I'm more awake.
Yeah. That's a great cover. Yeah. This is like with every British person that we talk to, when they bring up UCAC, they'll always say like, I don't know why they named it that, and then you gotta say why, because CAC means shit as a slang in Britain, and and they always have to, they always reveal that. We got Frank Whiteley on the channel doing that, and I was prepped by way of Rufus Dayglow. He's the one that I first heard it from. This fucking light. We're gonna have to get new lights, man.
What's going on?
Well, this is that stripped one, and it's just like really lightning. and I just can't move it.
It's hitting a glare, or it's not hitting the book?
It's the book. This is might as well be orange. Big book.
That's a stunner. This is probably one of the most, I don't know if the word's nostalgic, but like, I was so in.
Yeah.
Whenever this book came out.
All right, Jimmy, lock me in there. So this will be a kind of a twofold video. We did a commentary track for Sin City, the first one, but the audio was kind of screwed up. We were trying some new microphone things at the time, so like that's always kind of bummed me out. So we'll do a little bit of story content, but the art is the predominant thing that we're going to look at, obviously. Look at that, dude.
Jeez.
Pint sized. Let me see one thing. This way? Yeah. Okay.
You good?
Yes, sir. Welcome to Cartoonist Cafe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Going to be looking at the Sin City Gallery Edition, Artist Edition, Studio Edition, whatever Graffiti Designs or Dark Horse calls these things. We're looking at that.
Yes.
But first, got to know, man, we have a Patreon, and our biggest supporters are watching us stream this video at this very moment. They are getting our videos before anybody else. They are mitigating the kayfabe effect and getting first dibs on all the stuff that we're talking about. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. This is the bibliography. To date, Red Room Crypto Killers issue 1 is being solicited at your local comic shop right at this very moment. Put in those pre-orders right now. We're going to put that out monthly. 2 existing Red Room trades out there in the wild. 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design. It's the 10-year anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree. 4 volumes of that. Jimmy has the forthcoming Hulk Grand Design Treasury Edition coming out at the end of February. Plain Jane's is his shoujo manga. Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is collecting all of his Image Comics Street Angel comics, and he has Street Angel Princess of Poverty that is going to be forthcoming. You can put in pre-orders for that. But without further ado, man, let's crack this bitch open, Jimmy.
This was the most important book of my life. Not the artist edition, but the original Sin City whenever it came out. Like it was, I was such on a Miller kick, and he was gone.
Yeah.
You know, when I started reading Miller, he's away from comics. And so when he comes back to this, I'm trying to draw comics. I'm working in black and white. And here's my favorite artist back doing black and white comics. Like, it was just like synced up perfectly. Those end pages are hard to believe.
Absolutely.
That's 3 feet across right there of Marv running across a rooftop doing his best Daredevil impression. Very cool bonus here, seeing some pencil work reproduced.
You are getting a little bit of commentary from the various guys who were influenced, peers, Uncle Jeff Darrow, dropping a little science.
Yeah, it's a great collection of names. In
Robert Rodriguez doing a little intro piece. And it's a big-ass book, and we start off, and we're getting traditional size comics. This is probably 11 by 17. Miller's back in the game, has a whole career drawing comics at this size, but he's got a full different approach.
Posters. You know, like, each of these pages that we've just seen, that's the first thing that comes to mind is the poster image.
You can tell he's using Tech Pen rapidograph for that lettering. We're on to the big boards. Look at how muddy those boards are. Like, you know, he uses that Ticonderoga pencil, and he's one of those guys that just draws in those sweeping lines. You know, he draws standing up, and you just see him kind of swooping around with those pencils.
You can see it in the art of Sin City. There's a lot of examples of that kind of penciling, and where he is really going in there, and you can almost imagine the pencils being held on its side, and just those swooping gestures that you mentioned.
Big video for us, man. Go check that out. And one of the big revelations is there's about 5 or 6 pieces where they show the entire process, and he will draw the full figures, all their eyes, ears, everything. He'll go in on a piece of tracing paper over top, and with a Sharpie put all the drapery and perhaps the hair and stuff, and then it'll become maybe a lightbox situation where he is in a process of reduction and addition.
It's so great to see these again, because I'm blown away by going from white to black. I think Miller is maybe applying himself a little bit more here in this early Sin City stuff of really exploring work in black and white.
Yeah.
Because I think you see him doing a lot of different stuff here that maybe falls away as we get further into the Sin City catalog.
A lot of marks here, even in this very volume. Like, pay attention to these things, because a lot of these textures and stuff, they go away. Like these little dots and things, we're not going to see those kind of textures after this.
And this kind of a page layout for me, super bold.
Yeah.
This is Image Comics era for me,
Sure.
early 90s, whenever I'm getting hold of some of this stuff. And it was like, what is going on here? The control and the composition and the emphasis on an element or two, that was not something I was seeing anywhere else.
Yeah, and like most people, you know, an amateur would like, well, you got to center that up, right? Like, how can you go, that's too top heavy. But in terms of...
One of the classic Sin City pages for me, these cops, man, coming up out of the darkness, out of the depths of hell, if you will, coming up this staircase to come get Marv.
Becoming a motif in Miller's work at this point, man, because there's that great staircase, several great staircases in Electra Lives Again.
Absolutely. But here again, you see some stuff that we're not going to see mostly. That dry brush kind of like fading out of your shadows in the black.
Still playing with these dots.
Don't see that very often.
This feels like a Kirby page right here.
Those hands don't hurt. The
Yeah.
Kirby feeling there.
Close-ups.
Mm-hmm. Big square hands.
Diving into that abyss.
You really do see him. I don't know why this never appeared to me, but how much he's going from like black background, white background.
It's true. And check this out, man. So much drawing. You're getting the molding of the baseboards and the door frames.
I think it's
But
really
he's not putting
interesting
that in there.
what he ends up not inking.
Yeah, like, you know, he's whiting out a little bit of glass debris.
And some of these things, we've seen these in earlier pages already, where the black almost approaches your abstract shapes.
Yeah.
It's pretty bold stuff, and it's pretty bold stuff to be happening in, you know, is this Sin City #2? Like, this is the second chapter of this stuff. Very experimental. I think in hindsight, that's not as obvious. But...
Right. Using the good paper, man. Strathmore
Yeah.
500 Bristol. You see the stamp on there.
That's what you get, the nice big that's why we have an edition this size.
Harkens back to more of that clear line with of the Electra Lives Again stuff when you see an image like this.
I'll go further, man. Harkens back to some of the European references we see in Ronin.
Sure.
You know, like, clearly that's something he's been looking at this point for a decade.
So you create that stark black and white style. Now you got to get it to work with some real world things like the spider-webbed broken glass of a windshield. How do you do that? You got it right the first time.
How powerful are these images at this size?
Absolutely.
I'm being blown away by just like how strong something like even this car. I don't remember these images hitting me this way.
Right. When you see a small piece, I wonder if this is like the additional shit that would be included in like that trade paperback.
Very likely.
This story's called Sin City, right? To you, it's not called The Hard Goodbye.
Yeah, it's Sin City. I mean, one of the first things I ever got a comic book shop tasked with was get me a collection of Sin City, because I had a couple of the Dark Horse Presents issues.
Yeah.
And the guy, I remember, like, he would go to conventions and come back, and I'd call and be like, "Did you find one?" And eventually he did.
So, like, look at what he's whiting out here, man. He had this sort of valley that happens at the spinal cord when you've got a muscular back, and he was calling attention to that. But nah, man, he's whited that out and just created this white plane on the back of his shoulders there.
The use of the bricks is just pattern. Essentially, it's a flat area, you know, that he's using, and he uses it all throughout these Sin City books. It's really cool to see what he pulls out for that purpose of almost like That's a gray in a world that he's drawing in black and white.
Yeah. I feel like this piece is inside of a circle on the cover. It's like there's a paste up and such a striking image. This is a full poster to me. Look at how you could tell he's doing underdrawing in a big way, because that is a crouched figure. He's got the entire body figured out, and then is just inking the bits that he needs to.
This is a 3-panel comic strip.
It is.
You know, even with Marv disappearing and the whistling preceding our policeman.
We see the pencil lines for his perspective, adding so much more detail to the buildings in pencil. Look, there's like, this is not the top of a building. Like this,
yeah, it keeps going.
It keeps going, and you know, you could lose that, but he's got the individual bricks there. We have pillars or where the windows might lie there, and he's just pulling out the important shapes for himself. These are windows.
I like the experimentation of this a lot. It does not work great for me.
Not this piece?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think it's so cool.
I think it's real interesting, but it's just weird for me to read a building where like this is universally lit essentially. You know, windows are black. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and I get it. How about that shit though?
Yeah.
Man? Does that work for you, Jim?
That
do you
does
approve
work.
of this one,
I
Jimmy?
do love that. I love how distinct the light is. You know, like he's above the light. The street lights are you know, from below there.
The hyperbole too, man. He's getting his fingers in between the mortar of the bricks and his feet, his toes in between the mortar of the bricks.
I don't think Marv's big size 14 boots are climbing that too easily.
This is hyperbole, and it's beautiful, man. We don't question it.
No.
You accept it.
No doubt about it. And also, Miller's so good with composition where, like, we're at the top of the page. He has climbed up. This is a height. And it's represented not just graphically, but also literally the way the page is composed. He is at the top.
He's done his
and
fair
it's
share.
leaning, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. You go with the wind.
He could fall off of there very easily.
With the wind. The lady who played her in the movie, man, they just fucking nailed it. Like every pose, every composition.
I've never seen the movie.
Oh, I love it. And the other one. Both of them.
Yeah, I probably should watch it. I love this stuff. Like whenever he would get into the tiles,
yeah,
it's another version of that brick. But man, like to use it to define the space where it's going back in perspective, it was so like I would lose my mind staring at these pages.
It feels real accurate too. Like he is like lightboxing something, and the fact that he's not using ruler, it really feels like the guy did a bad putty job. Like in that, it feels like a real. That's a Pittsburgh bathroom right there.
It's great stuff. Even carries it over into the reflection in the medicine cabinet.
Randy, please have panel 3 moved to line up with 1 and 2.
Interesting.
Push it over a little bit more.
Wonder what he was thinking when he did that originally.
Right, because there's a choice. You know, this is an uninked set of lines. There was dialogue written there. He ended up lettering it there. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's another one of those chapter breaks. You're right about. I'm pretty sure that's what that was.
Yeah.
What it was at, and in this case, 2 of them.
And it would be promoted that way. Whenever a new trade would come out, there's 16 extra pages, and usually they would be these big moments. It would never be paneled pages.
I think sometimes that was to make your page breaks and spreads and page reveals work right. Love this kind of stuff. There's no reason to have that airplane there. And yet it's such a cool detail to put in.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But like, it's his childhood bedroom.
Oh, it works perfectly. It's great. But I think if you were just... It'd be very easy to be like, he went to his childhood bedroom. Mm-hmm. And who knows, maybe you draw a dresser with something on it or whatever. But that plane is such a so pleasing visually.
Yeah. See where he's got that nose from. It looks like a Muppet.
It's wild profiles, both of them. Even Marv with his cartoony, probably the most cartoony piece of Marv that we see is that big grin on his face.
If it was just a head and had feet, it would be an is.
Yeah, it would be. Good stuff.
That's an iconic piece. I think.
How about our 4 being blown up?
Right. Yeah.
Like that little 4 so much you go in with some white media. Almost looks like tape you're putting down.
Right.
This is another one of those brick patterns that just... It's so simple. Looking at it now, you know, with some time, with perspective. But it absolutely... I had never seen anything like this.
For sure. Absolutely. The Eisnerian pipes that would be, you know, the sort of jail bars of this, like, Eisner would do that. Allowing
Almost religious, almost crosses that he's going into this somewhere to really face what's going on.
Allowing this negative space to be wetness,
love that,
dampness, like coming down from the wall. So he's thinking about the environment, like what is this? This is an alley. Your coat looks like Baghdad. Famous line.
So's your face. Loved all of it. Boy, the shadows that he could put on those bricks. It feels like that's your groundwork for the film. Like
Sure.
I can remember seeing all the video for it and like how they would show the tiles and the bricks and the shadows on them.
Testing out that pen. Gotta get that pen working.
Big fan of that. Also playing with, go back one page, because he starts playing with, he plays with type and its arrangement so much throughout the Sin City run. And I feel like you're really seeing it in some of this kind of stuff where it's getting into the prose, where you're almost combining prose now and illustration. And even here you get some of that.
The how like those buildings didn't work for you. This hair never worked for me.
That's so interesting. Like I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, these are such bold choices. They're a weird bit of storytelling. They're kind of those posters, and it just feels like you get an artist at this stage in their career where they can do what they want. They can sort of indulge themselves, and that's what I see in those pages. And there are choices. The fringe on her costume I think is similar to the hair.
Yeah.
Maybe it works better in some places than others. I think it's an interesting idea of like, how do you solve this visual problem?
Right. Like that hair looks pretty cool. So now, man, he's done with putting all those bricks. We're just going to give you the shadow.
Yeah, I like that. It's pretty exciting.
It works.
I mean, it's a reversal. It's we walked in there with that nice bright alley. We're walking out another door, and guess what? We're in a different place, and it's visually represented.
Choreographing this stuff, not too easy, but that's something that Frank Miller has always excelled at.
Yeah, I mean, he's credited. I think of him as being credited with Daredevil as choreographing fights.
Yeah.
Really going from that Jack Kirby free-for-all to a more planned fight. And yeah, you see it here.
Yeah, it's exactly this kind of stuff, except, it's Electro with size or something.
You see it here, and you see it economic. Like 2 panels for him to take one guy's gun, shoot the other guy with it.
And he makes the conscious choice to, like, abuse that 180-degree rule, and it's a very jarring moment, and it works for...
It's really well done there, especially because the one guy's getting spun around and face planted. Works really great.
When he knocks the guy's nose off.
Going from the line art of the gun to the all shadow of the gun, just the shape, that stuff works really well for me.
Just catching that shadow plane of the bandages and things.
It's a great muzzle burst.
Yeah.
Because that's what's giving you the shadow on the gun, on the face. It's almost lightning, like something that you would see in Dark Knight Returns would be lightning, or in Jeff Smith's Bone with the lightning, you would see that kind of effect.
And this is the stuff that the style biters would really hinge on, is that like lack of holding line, light coming from a specific source kind of thing.
So when we start getting these marks on faces,
that's your death flow shit.
It is, but it's also really abstract.
Very much.
That's no longer built on a consistent light, like that becomes some expressive piece of black and white mark making. And Miller's a guy I don't think of as drawing beautiful women, but when he has to, he's able to make a very alluring woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this approach with the hair, with Goldie's hair, man, giving you big shapes in the black and then accenting it with his white media. And you can see he's figuring it out himself, man. He has some shadow up here when some things happen. He's like, no, I'll take all of that out, but just put some shadow around the eyes.
I love the choice. It's awesome to see that it didn't start this way, but yeah, man, make those eyes black. Make those eyes be the thing that pops. This is Alex Toth 101, man. You put the black dot in the middle of the white, that's your focal point. And you're doing it with her eyes, genius. See, this is what I'm talking about, where this is just like some kind of abstract expression.
And wouldn't this be a cover to...
I think that's a...
Dark Horse Presents?
I think so, although the 5 makes me wonder if that's true. I think that's a cover.
Yeah. Tossing and turning. This is manga decompressed storytelling. Like you just an action shot of emotion.
Right, and the way he would offset it is with the text that he would put in. And he played with that a lot in Sin City, I think. Really effectively. Like, there was some stuff, I think, with the text that I wasn't seeing elsewhere.
That's a gross toilet.
That's a great. It's a reverse drawing. You know, we talk about lines that describe form, and now they're white lines that describe that bowl shape. That is a great.
So gory.
First time I think we've seen that kind of blood splatter effect used, at least to that degree.
Yeah, that's the Dwight eyeball blood splatter.
Like the offset of like the dots, you know, our tie pattern.
Mm.
Kind of interesting to throw both of those into the same panel.
This is Frank Miller plays this guy in the movie, the priest.
I never noticed this before, but feathering on our tire.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other feathering in this book.
When you get to look at something at this level, you get to see that. You know, some more of that spider web glass that just reduces down to little pellets. The cartooning of our preacher here with that kind of sunken brow, and you could sell it with the black, is a very, very solid approach. It's cartooning.
Absolutely. And this gun, I have a feeling there's a lot of kayfabe going on in that gun. It looks way too... The proportions look off to me, and I love to see that. It's a comic like it's the power of cartooning is to do that. You could trace that gun if you wanted it to be 100% accurate. Much more important that it fits that panel, in my opinion. Iconic.
The bravado.
Dude, I stared at this. I redrew these pages. This was everything to me.
Yeah, it's a real, you know, this is John Workman, Walt Simonson, down to the type, you know, the way he chose to draw the type. It's very Workman-ish.
Miller doesn't invent this, but it's one of the first times I saw it, and I mean, bravado, as you say, Ed.
Very Bush.
Huge, man. That's really bringing it. It's really applying it to maximum impact.
Got some kind of like little K car or something.
More of this. Draw a bunch of hair, take a bunch of it out.
The more your abstractness, man, like straight up, like,
you know what?
fire.
I love that. This is something that I didn't notice before either, and I really, it's fun. It was on that cop car earlier that I pointed out. It's a subtle little piece. Sells you some motion.
Conveys that movement, man. I guess, you know, this is old Benzo. Like, I guess they had key fobs back in those days, man, because, like, my parents didn't have key fobs till way later.
No, me either. I love the clumsiness of the big fingers and stuff, too, wrapped around that gun. The shape's still there. I can imagine him drawing that in pencil and taking it out, but it's such a simple shape.
There is a bleed at the end of these lines, like, but there's not at the end of the lettering. Like, this is definitely tech pen stuff, but I wonder if this is a different tool than...
Different ink, maybe a pen nib pen, maybe.
Yeah, but it would have to be the stiffest kind of pen, because you're not getting that much line variation.
Yeah, I used to always think that line was part of the lettering line, but maybe I'm wrong.
At this level, it just doesn't look like it. It's doing a lot of searching, like, this is paste up or something.
Yeah.
For this this piece, he redrew some bits, and a lot of white media being used. Looked like he wanted to put the tires here and thought better of that.
Or put them there and then decided to get rid of it.
Exactly.
How about that for a page?
Yeah. So effective in print, too.
And the level of confidence to do a page like that?
Yes.
Massive.
Oh, totally. Because, like, you know, you would still maybe even want to put more windows and things. This is one of those images where the horizon line is
I'm glad you called that out. We talk about that a lot, and you're right. That is a really good example of it.
You never see it in a silhouette.
You know, for creators at home, I feel like this book is an argument to do a black and white book.
Right.
Because it certainly makes you think about this stuff. How about a little throwback to Ronin days? Really bringing out your lines and textures on all those trees. Drawing animals in this chapter. This reminds me of like television show writing where like there's almost a theme, you know, and you're seeing all these different animals in this particular chapter.
There's a theme of wolves for him, you know. It's in 300, and he has that like that Netflix show that revolves around or involves like a wolf. Uncle Jeff showing up. There he is. It really is Jeff Darrow too.
I think that bone's a reference to 2001.
Oh, good call.
It feels so much like a still
like the
frame.
Image. Yeah. You can hear the Ric Flair music going over top of it. or was it Randy Savage?
Oh yeah, I don't know. You're right. What a blur.
This.
Yeah.
Classic.
This is another use of black and white that I don't think we've seen exactly. That white outline. Great stuff, man, to really sell his hand and the kind of the monstrousness of him.
Yeah.
Obvious reference, I think, to Charlie Brown in that sweater.
Yeah. Sadistic Charlie Brown.
And here's another example of this. Like, okay, we're going to write some. We're going to show our Mickey Spillane love here in this margin.
Gotta go purple.
And now our pages have taken a smaller size.
Yeah. Could be economy. Could be bigger page count per chapter and shorter window time frame to get those turned in.
What a morbid concept, right? We're a serial killer with heads mounted on the wall.
Yeah, like deer.
Pretty dark stuff there.
Reintroduces our psychotherapist character.
And she's been destroyed at this point. You know, like you can see it. Hand cut off and fed to her.
Look at how pleased Kevin is at the screams. He made me watch.
Looks like his forehead's been scarred. Like he's been in the ring with Abdullah.
He got gigged. Got the gig. Look at that. That's severe. He's really feeling it. The striation. Like that's the thing. Like when we were at art school, the teachers would like be ruthless in their criticisms. If you were drawing like all the striations and stuff, if a guy's just chilling, it's like no, that's flexing. Like you do that when you're flexing, your muscles relax when you're not.
This is such a great panel composition too, where they're on different planes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's so extreme. It works so great in the economy of a comic.
And see, there are these bits where it does look like Miller's still figuring some things out. He's trying some stuff out.
Yeah, that one's pretty awkward.
Yeah.
And I say that based on we've got a white outline, then we've got a black line, then we've got a white outline. Right.
But there's cool
that
stuff.
One looks like it doesn't fit as perfect.
There's cool stuff, like the outline of the hands around the bars and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's almost like a Tom drawing right there.
I love this whole page. I'm real impressed by it.
POV shot, sick as hell. In the movie, they really capture like that lumbering, that weird gait.
Black on black. That feels like something you got to figure out. All right, so here we go. I bought this off of the rack, the Dark Horse Presents issue. This is really probably one of the 10 most influential, like burnt into my brain comics, and it has one of my favorite pages ever. And I just love this, the perspective of the staircase as we go down the stairs into the basement.
Yeah. And
this kunk, as it's going back and forth, and her eyes are following it because each row is the same amount of time.
Right.
I just love it. Masterpiece. It's one of my favorite pages in comics.
And once again, another very decompressed piece of storytelling. Look at how small the heads are. They're like
He's
pinheads.
gone with this different thing too with the lines. No longer are all the tiles outlined, which it's so claustrophobic. Like they are stuck in that space.
It's true. It's true, and that's all lined. There's no white media to like cut those in half. There is white media around the shadow to give you that, but to make the situation even grosser, these drains, like that's your bathroom. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to be in there a while. This is your bathroom.
Yeah, it's a little surprising that you put your heads on that wall. I feel like that's where you want to hang out, but I don't know what he's doing when he's looking at those heads, so maybe it makes sense.
It ain't for him. It's just intimidation for your, this is where you're going to end up, sucker. That type of shit.
There's your max striations, right?
Yeah.
Like we're getting through that door.
And this is the stuff that like Jim Lee and that brand of style biter, they were attracted to this, trying to do their own version, never worked. It rarely works with him, really. It's something he tries
it's not my
and
favorite
divorces.
effect. Ronnie Garvin with the bleach blonde top.
Like incinerators, I guess. A lot of duct work. It's such an interesting character, man. He feels like a wrestler.
Yes.
Like I feel like Hawker Animal might have tried that one time.
Yeah, maybe a barbarian or warlord.
Yeah.
Marvel trying to make do whenever Road Warriors don't sign right away.
I love this.
He was that's wild.
Looking to frame our guys with a bunch of foliage, and then realizing we don't need that. We don't need the frame.
This was the other bonus of buying this particular issue of Dark Horse Presents is it's a bigger than 8-page section, so you get the hatchet fight. And I love that there's a hatchet fight.
Sure. Cartoon fucking bullet holes, man.
Mm-hmm.
Cartoon bullet holes.
You got that right.
Wild. Still trying that gimmick?
Almost a different effect here because now we're in night and darkness, presumably. You know, you see how shadowed up everybody is for the most part in this part because we are outdoors now. Full moon zine.
When you get the Breck, like you just, it feels like you're just squeezing a little bit and 20 bullets.
This is neat. This is your hatchet's down at his side, ready to go into action, and it's mirrored with the boot. It's almost you're getting the motion, you know, where you would copy that, make parallel lines.
Just taking care of these dudes. Your flak jackets are not going to do much. Punt, one of those sound effects that describes the action.
Really good stuff. Love this arm stretched out, man. Full blood, like somebody's getting hurt bad whenever that arm comes down.
Yes, sir.
And you get a shadow behind it that makes the white pop, because you can see some muscles and stuff drawn, but just never inked.
And it is a convenient shadow that's being given to give you the contour of the tree and just taking a little chunk of tree out, so you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, like that bullet, it didn't hit our guy.
I'm so surprised by how gray the whited out part is, because you know, like, you'd have to blow out levels if you were doing it digitally today scanning, but that white not covering very well.
It's true, man. And you know, they will, and it will have texture. And I remember these pages, you will see like little chunks of black. There just wasn't good white, man. They would tell you to use like that pro white stuff. You would get this with that pro white. It was never great. A lot of guys use, I guess, white acrylic paint.
I feel like that's one of your iconic images.
And another one of those weird op art.
Yeah, it was so strange, those choices. It's the equivalent to me of like a lot of the image guys, like a McFarlane, when you see like a close-up of a face or a hand and it's just covered in marks, and it's kind of like, what are you drawing? I don't understand all these marks. That was sort of what some of this kind of like fake or facial stuff was for me. You know, I couldn't copy this because I didn't understand it.
Yeah, and he couldn't probably explain it either. But this is still early in the game. And then when he would have a moment like this, where it's like, now it's all light, like there's no shadow to it. It was very awkward, but I think this was left up to Lynn Varley to color. I've seen this image in color.
This is your Dark Horse Presents cover.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the 8 is here, because that was usually like the splash page would have the 8, but I don't think that was, I mean, I know there's a cover of this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it double dutied or not. Maybe it worked double. I don't know.
This is always so good, man. We're like, it ends with him just having the gay old time, fucking chasing the dude down, like laughing. Maniacal laughter, by the way. That's full-on Joker laughing.
I see a lot of Darrow.
Oh, totally.
You know, like, I don't know the time period of this exactly, but wow, that could almost be Nixon.
Yeah.
Nixon, the comic book character, not the president.
Right. This stuff was always sick as fuck, man, where you get your initial whites and then you put like a piece of paper down and put like another couple lines to just give you that hard surface.
That does not look like an original, right? Is that a photocopy? I know it's not noted here, but I think that's a reproduction, because you can see like even the yellow of the paper is so busted up on the scan. Same here, you know. I think that's a
photo set
put in later. Look at that for a pretty wild choice.
Yeah, it takes me a minute.
And your lettering pasted on. I mean, that might be a second or third go at that page.
Yeah. Look at how it feels like it's glowing in the actual scan as opposed to the printed image, because if you remember, it's very abstract in the final printed stage. Like, it's you don't see much. Like, there's a lot more white on the printed page than we get to see here.
Yeah, this makes me want to bust out the actual printed page and compare them.
Yeah.
And
yeah, check it out. Like, see, we can really make out Marv pretty well here, but he really...
It makes me wonder if, like, when you're drawing this, like Miller, like, you're responding to what you see here, right? Like, okay, let's do a little bit more. Like, let's really bounce this water off of this rod, because it has that glow effect, but it's all gone in the print.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see those two next to each other.
Yeah, this piece too. And you can see, like, how you see, it looks like a dry brush kind of thing. And I guess there is some of that there. But a lot of that is just, it's chaos, what's white and what's black when it comes to the final printed page. Like, see, there's a taper to, it's raindrops, very clear, but it's pretty well white right there. Shooting statues.
He's ahead of his time.
Jebediah Springfield. The proto Old Town Girls.
Yeah, Wonder Woman in the mix there.
It's like 2 Wonder Womans, man, because there's that one barmaid lady. How about that? He has the eye in there, kind of abstract, got the shadow of the hair. And by the way, if he would have left it, you would have been totally satisfied.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks right, but he's going even further into abstraction.
This is a neat, check out this. Continuation of our spiral.
Yeah.
But continues through his shoulder, like clearly that tangent is a planned one.
Yeah.
And that feels like a reference to something like a Vertigo.
Totally Vertigo.
Yeah, even him spinning back to a great 2-page sequence. And a lot more of your blacked out. But man, the hair does everything. It really especially does. With a cigarette. What else do you need? And
so with this, he's using white as opposed to, like, I always wondered, like, is it black that you're using or white? And for the most part, it's white. You know, maybe that is just the black ink. But.
That feels like an effect he tried at some point in this book and was like, oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
It captures form really well.
And you know what that is? Like you know those tight dresses, kind of a velvety texture. Like I've seen them out in the world for sure.
I would marvel at this stuff where you have motion. I think the motion is clear there.
Yeah.
And yet, why? How does it work?
It's all in sync. You got the hair bouncing. You got the face going over there.
Having that straight arm is important, that straightness.
Dude, is he using tape to create the bandage?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's...
That feels like a Sienkiewicz stroke, something he learned from Bill.
I think that's a great hair, and I feel like that grows out of some of the white that we have seen used elsewhere. But again, like you're trying to make all these hairstyles unique, right? You want everything to stand on its own.
Right. Another one of these great pieces where, you know, it looks totally satisfactory. As if you would have kept that black in there. But you chose to take it out for this to be the final printed piece. But, like, that looks good.
Yes.
Interesting decisions.
Keep this handy in case we need it again.
Abstract butt cheeks. That's a cover.
That's a nice low shot.
Mirror,
we often talk about the over the shoulder 3/4 is tough. The behind the face works really great there. Man, how many ways can we stretch our bricks?
Right.
Now we got the big tiles.
Used that a couple of times.
Yeah.
This really does feel like that Eisnerian, you know, proscenium arch. Set up your stage play, set up your background to give you just enough. Like, what is this? Like, it's like a little private place to put some clothes on? Is that what this little circle gimmick is?
I think that's a shower.
Oh, yeah, it's a shower head up there.
I've never seen a shower that looks like that.
No, that's probably some New York shit when you have, like, economy of space.
He's doing some, you know, like, Scott McCloud. Tell us what's the relationship here between these two panels?
Yeah, on that, like, grid, that would be, like, the far, like, abstract thing.
Yeah, but, you know, like, whenever I go over here, then, it almost feels like this car is used in a similar way.
Right.
Where they just become these graphic elements on the pages. I love that stuff because it feels like you're trying something.
Yeah.
You get to do this. You know, even a panel like this, Screech, you only get to do that if you're really the person doing everything.
Right.
Because I don't know how you think about it otherwise. It'd be weird to explain to somebody.
The Marv Blue Balls sequence, man. Let's see how this looks. I don't quite remember these marks here. But
I love his giant feet hanging over the... even that's a moment of expression of who this character is.
Super horny.
Never fitting in the world anywhere.
Looks good here. It looks totally appropriate.
Very clean, yeah. But the couch is such a great piece of how do we show Marv always out of his way? Love the inclusion of stuff like that saw.
Yeah.
Because who thinks of that as some insidious weapon? Right. But it looks wrong, like the little jagged edges.
It's gonna hurt.
Yes.
And I don't know, like how many? I had a bunch of these as a kid that came with like weird little.
They come with miter boxes and stuff. Yeah. I still have a couple of those saws.
One of my favorite pages, showing the tools of the trade.
Yeah, I always like those gloves and the razor wire.
Right.
He describes razor wire as just the nastiest thing in this book. That was the first time I came in contact with razor wire. I only grew up with barbed wire.
Yeah.
And he sells it, man. Like, look at those gloves that he's wearing in order to deal with this stuff. Really sells it. Yeah, that's a great use of sell. You know, like having the gloves be that much attention on the gloves to show, like, this stuff will cut you to the bone.
Right. Setting his traps. Look at how nimble our young Kevin is.
Yeah, that's your comic book superhero. That's your Daredevil background.
They capture that pretty well in the flick also.
Man, this really is like a death match, like a wrestling death match. Like that idea of we're gonna handcuff together and then we're gonna fight.
Right.
You're not gonna be too fast then.
And he's got like some claws and shit.
Yeah, he draws him with those claws, like the lead up to this fight. Every time you'd see him like jumping with a dark background, it looked like he had a weapon in his hands.
We were reading another comic in prep for this. We had to call an audible, but like the character was talking about his like diamond manicure in those 2 issues that we were reading, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, was that a thing? Because there is a lot of realistic stuff throughout the book, but like, what is a diamond manicure? Like, how do you like create little diamond claws for yourself? Was that a thing?
Yeah, it's not something I'm familiar with, but obviously having some kind of claw extension, I mean, I used to see that in ninja magazines.
Sure, but it was just fingernails.
Yeah.
Like Lee press-on nails, but they're diamond tipped or something.
He uses them too in that comic in question.
Don't introduce them if you don't use them. And here's the frame sequence. Like, we saw the characters, like that one guy with the face paint before, and then Frank decided to white it out. But now he's going with that inverted silhouette.
Yeah, and you get it with the entire page.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's another one of those themes.
There's a Mirage like Turtles miniseries that came out in the aughts around the time of
I remember this.
where it was just shadow
Yes.
Turtles comics, just pure silhouette, every panel silhouettes like this.
It might have been an Andy Kuhn joint. I can't remember, but I do remember that comic coming out, and it was kind of neat for that.
I think it was
if you
a
love
series.
silhouettes.
Yeah, like 4 or 6 issues, something like that.
Dude, and you get to see, we get a big build up on that saw a couple pages ago. That's quite the payoff.
Tourniquets to make sure he doesn't bleed. Like, Frank thought this out.
Yeah, this is dark material.
Frank thought out this torture a little bit. This is one of those pieces that feels bleeding edge. You know, it feels like he moved past this.
It's an amazing page. That giant, he never screams.
Right.
In a weird way, it's restrained, but also that restraint is what makes it horrific. And his body looks good there, like it's been through
Tight,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, those dark splotches look like they could be all kinds of injuries and scars.
That little compound. You know bad shit is happening in there, dude. And Marv's gonna find out blending in with the background a bit. I think that's intentional. These flak jackets he constructed for his guys are real sweet.
They're one of those elements that work well in this black and white style. I think that's a piece of making something like this work, is figuring out like what works. You know, like these kinds of the clay tile for the roof shingles. It might have been perfectly apt for the world, but also lends itself to the black and white.
Super visual, yeah. And everybody tried to do these after that. And once you go a little off askew, then the next layer is going to give, like, people fuck this. I fucked this up a million times,
Oh,
man.
yeah. He even, I feel like he even messes it up here
Sure.
and there, but it just works.
And
Like,
Dame
that texture just sells.
In Dame to Kill For, he really perfected it.
Great at, like, the framing sequences, too. You know, like, having that
Yeah.
bell tower is what
Yeah.
you're looking through. You mentioned Eisner as, like, stage setup, but also the compositions. Like, think of all the moments of Eisner looking through a window, looking through an alley. It's here, man. That's a part of what Miller's doing here.
They need to drop a full bomb on the whole Rourke family. Because, like, there's Kevin, and he's not surprised. And then there's the yellow bastard as part of the family. And, like, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah.
Your whole family sucks. You gotta go.
Yeah, they're infected with something.
So disturbing.
It really is. That's a great body type, but it is
And it's a lit room, and it's providing some challenges for Frank Miller. Like he's giving you that line because it's too abstract if you don't have it, and he's making that determination. And whenever he draws that line, I have to imagine that he's saying like, okay, like it's too far from, like it'll take the reader too long to understand what they're looking at.
Yeah, I appreciated that line. You know, whenever I was reading this as a kid, that line made sense to me whenever you would use it. But I do see it as, you know, I see what you're describing there. It's similar in a way to earlier I was like black on black whenever we saw Kevin in the dark. You just got to figure out ways to sell, you know, it's a very limited tool set that you get to work with. That's a great reverse silhouette, that whole panel.
You see him building the figure. You see the eye sockets and where the eye is situated in here. This makes me think of that great Spider-Man annual with Dr. Octopus where Miller is sending Dr. Octopus through the printing press of the newspaper factory. And imagine how hard that would be. You read that in a script, and now you got to draw that. And he chose to go abstract because, fuck, that's a hard thing to draw. And if you drew everything, maybe it wouldn't look clear. It's almost got to be iconography. A hospital bed, like, this is all you need, man. The tubes fill the right sort of thickness to, you know, pass some liquids through. You got the nose joint. You got the little bed guardrail. It's all there.
Yeah. I've said it enough that it's probably you could do a drinking game of economy, but I feel that way about this panel too, where you know it's a nightmare image, right? Like you're being operated on against your will, and this is what you're seeing. That's pretty great stuff. I feel like that's the kind of shot that we've seen in a lot of media, and man, if you've ever been in an operation, right? So pretty good horror shot there without drawing a lot.
Getting a little conjugal visit. You wonder, like, with all the stuff that the work family puts them through and all the strings they could pull, why they let them get a little puss? You know, maybe just deprive them of that also. Or maybe it's like, you're getting a little bit, that's the last bit.
Yeah, once he gets into the system, maybe they just couldn't stop that.
Right.
Without, you know, killing her or something like that. This is great stuff too. You know, the economy part, like when I do layouts, I think that sometimes of like, it's a simpler... What you're doing is simpler here, but that's the reading part.
Exactly.
Sometimes the simpler, that first idea is the best one for clarity.
Absolutely, and clarity is paramount, man. I mean, are we making comics or are we drawing books where you get to stare at pretty pictures all day? Ideally, you do both.
You do, and I think these skulls are examples of that. I find these skulls gorgeous, but you read them in a quarter of a second. They're so clear. But I think they look amazing.
I don't feel like I ever noticed like these little kind of
I didn't either.
Bits, little steams or something.
It's almost a matter of like figuring out how you find the beautiful stuff, you know, in a simple style like this, and something that's readable that you don't want to just stare at pretty pictures.
It's like the charge going.
But you do want the pretty pictures in there. So how do you get them? Yeah, those curlies I like, and I never would have noticed that before.
Little finger painting from Uncle Frank, man. Like let's make a Xerox of that and put it on his iPhone.
That's a great example of how much does not translate.
Yeah.
You know, so much of that nuance is gone. You know, like there's just no indication of some of those ones that are half the ink left on your finger.
And then it just becomes a full blotch with no value to it. Looks good. You know, you can live with it, but we're just saying that there is a lot of
Might
contrast.
look better actually here in terms of like your burnt flesh.
Right.
You know, it feels burnt out. I think a little bit more.
Last page, small paper. Oh, here's all our covers. Answers all our questions.
There's the cover that you were asking about. There's the one that I remember buying as early on. Yeah. Boy, that was a hell of a run of Dark Horse Presents, because if you're looking, you can see Martha's in the top corner of like, I think the first appearance was like the big 5th anniversary edition, and then you see John Byrne's Next Men starts out in Dark Horse Presents at this time.
And then you're like mid-Carters and stuff. Bacchus by Eddie Campbell, that ain't nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all.
Is there Mobius in here?
It's possible. I mean, it's a very rich time period. Like Dark Horse, Miller signing is like the Reggie White signing in Green Bay. Like it changed the direction, I think, of Dark Horse. Like it really became a place where A-listers could show up.
Some promo materials.
That's a pretty iconic one. I saw that one a lot.
This is that image where like you saw that most people, you see this before you see the comic, so it's like you can't wait to read
right
the Marv versus Nunn sequence that
yes.
just got just ain't there, man. It's just that evocative image. Some more of Uncle Frank's Catholicism showing.
That's a pretty great image.
And this might have been just like the little, the Dark Horse Presents cover.
Yeah, I think a few of these are covers.
That feels pretty rough. Like that's something new. Love the chunkiness of this guy. Just a box of a human. Never seen this piece before.
Yeah, that's a subsequent printing, I guess.
Yeah, it said third printing. And then, of course, old Sparky.
That chair looks so heavy.
It does.
The blockiness.
Like it's telephone poles.
Yeah, it feels like what you would need to hold down what's going to happen.
How about this? Preserved his pencils, man. He's using a new style. So maybe you don't want to fuck up the original artboard. Maybe you need this to like run off another scan or light box or something.
That's cool to see the pencils with the lettering penciled in.
Yeah.
It's tight.
Never saw this image before.
Who's that?
Andy Kubert.
Huh.
Ink by Jansen.
Wow. Wonder what that was for.
Maybe just for this.
Another great end page.
Not bad. Not bad. Good stuff. There it is.
Yeah, I was staring at this thinking about, like, what are those pen lines? You know, this is the most blown up we get to see. Like the, some of the outline pen lines.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so close to look like the word balloons.
That's the same
Tech
as the
pen,
liquid. Yeah.
And it looks
That's
really
the same.
similar to this, so.
Yeah, but but like you see these like little doodads, man. Those are the things that make me question. Is it the pen and then you're like ticking back? Like it's the same pen and you're kind of doing almost like a check.
It's hard to tell because this is a different mark.
That's a different
And
pen.
I don't know if that's a pen nib or if that's a fine brush.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very nice artist edition, though.
Frank,
Very
come
well
on.
done.
We'll do the shoot, interview, and answer all those questions.
Is that a kitchen sink logo? What the heck's kitchen sink's involvement?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, maybe they own a bunch of the pages, or somebody owns a bunch of the pages, something like that. Good. Good question. Maybe for a time, Dennis Kitchen was doing some of that liaison work, man, before.
I know he does stuff at Dark Horse.
But he's like the executor to certain dudes' estates. Eisner, Kurtzman. So maybe for 10 minutes he was helping Frank out with some stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
Good book.
Heck of a book. Love that it's oversized. Love that some of those pages are bigger than 1.5 up.
Absolutely, man.
It's funny. This is one of the artist editions that I look at and think about buying and haven't bought that I've probably looked at the most.
Yeah. Yeah, when I heard this thing was coming out, I just had to grab it. Like, you can never take for granted that you'll ever have another chance with some of that stuff, man. So, had to scoop it up. And the truth is, man, the King Kayfabers are grabbing whatever copies are left online because they are watching us stream this video in real time on the Patreon. And if they're not sitting here in real time, they're at the office or something, they're getting the video before anybody else is. So support the Patreon. It mitigates the kayfabe effect and will prevent you having to buy inflated comics at inflated prices in the future, man. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. So Jimmy, tell the people some of your bibliography.
Hulk Grand Design and Street Angel Princess of Poverty. Pre-order those today. They'll be out in the coming months, maybe in the coming weeks. Street Angel Deadly Squirrel Live and the Plain Janes, also available and in print now. You can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see more of my art. You can download out-of-print zines and mini comics. You can see what I'm working on next. And an example of some of those downloads, I just posted some Blue Line templates. So if you're a fellow maker, pop on there and download those. Those are actually free to the public, so you can just pick those up now.
Red Room Crypto Killers issue #1 is being solicited by your comic shop. So put in your orders, put in your pre-orders ASAP. We need to know how many of these things to print. There are 2 trade paperbacks out there right now. Red Room Trigger Warnings, Red Room The Antisocial Network. Those are in your local comic shops. I'm serializing all the Red Room stuff before it hits paper at my Patreon. Go there. Links are in the description below. 10-year anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree. 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design out in the universe. And WYSIWYG is a comic that I have out there that you might be able to get your hands on. Jimmy, tell the people what else we have out in the wild.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Cafe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Cafe t-shirts, mugs, hats, stickers, and lots more merchandise at our spread shop. That link is also below this video.
Great ways to support the channel and keep these videos rocking. Give them those merchant orders, Jimmy. We'll be on our way.
Make more comics.
There it is. So, Kayfabers, that's how we call an Audible. And I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with that video.
I hope not. How dare they, if so. Hey, you know what the chatter's been on here?
What's the chatter?
There's a... It's crazy that comics are sort of... You can buy them everywhere.
Yeah.
Target has an online sale. Maybe it's in person, too. 2 comics, get 3. Buy 2, get 3. And that includes some... It's their artist editions that they have available. So
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, omnibus editions. I was just at Walmart randomly. I don't go there very often. There's not one close to my house. But we went to one this weekend, wandering around, got into the book section. I love seeing what's out there. They have a bunch of comics. It's a lot of manga, as you might expect.
Right.
But it's one more of those things, like, I feel like wherever I encounter comics, it's always different, like what they have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Raina's all over Target.
That makes sense. I used to see her books in Giant Eagle. Now I see all of the Dan, whatever, you know, the police dog, the Dog Man is the graphic novel that there's always at least one of those in my Giant Eagle. They have 40 books total, and there's like 3 comics all from is Pilkin?
I don't even fucking know, man. That stuff is such
But they're
trash.
everywhere. Like, it's so crazy to me. Like, I was shocked by the Walmart. I almost ended up buying a bunch of manga in Walmart.
Amazing.
Yes.
Kayfabers, thank you guys for coming through one more time. We are going to debrief for today. We're going to split. You are going to want to be here next week. As long as everything goes off without a hitch, not a situation like today, you're going to want to be here. Got something historic going on. Really important. And it's an amazing document to have on the record. That's all we're going to say for now because we can't control anything but ourselves. But you're going to want to be here. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. We're going to split, go do our thing.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. Read a bunch of comics, man.
And we're going to start editing these vids, man. They're going to start showing up later today. So take care.